everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create. I've been away for so long. I've got so many projects going on at my house that I've just not been able to get to my craft room. So I'm finally back, and this is something I started several weeks ago, actually as soon as Home Sweet Home came in, but then I haven't just been able to find the time to sit down and record my project. So this is going to be something different for me, and it's going to be a relatively small project. So you can actually get two of these projects out of one DCE, or you can do one of these projects and still have enough left over to make a small mini album. So it's going to be kind of like a recipe box is what I'm planning on doing, and I'm going to be using the Home Sweet Home paper, and then I'm also using Graphic 45's die, and I'm featuring this significantly in this project. Now you can complete the project without this die. You would just need to make a folder that's roughly the same size as this die. You just wouldn't have the decorative edge. But I was really looking forward to using this die, and I think it's going to turn out really nice. So this is the Graphic 45 folder and sentiment die, and like I said, I'm going to feature this prominently throughout the project. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to show you really quick kind of what each page is going to look like. And this is just mocked up out of paper to try to demonstrate to you guys what we're doing, and then moving forward I'll be using the designer paper. So you're going to create these little pockets. This is a little pocket. We're going to do 12 of these pockets. And then this folder, which is die cut from the Graphic 45 die, is going to be able to slip right inside. And again, there'll be 12 of these. So it's going to slip in just like that. And I'm going to build a box around it so it's like a recipe box. So you would pull this out. It would be a recipe or a photo or both. And then I've gone ahead and added a score line on the back side of the folder to make the recipe stand up in an easel. So it's going to stand up like so on your tabletop. So you'd be able to read or see the picture or the description of whatever your recipe is, and display your photo. So that's how it's going to work out. Now I'm going to show you how to use the die to cut both a yellow piece, which is in the case of this project is actually going to be black. But I just wanted to use a contrast to demonstrate it, and how you're going to cut the inside piece so that it's matted perfectly all the way around. So I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how to make the pocket. And you're going to make 12 of these. Again, it's 6 3/4, score at 1/2 inch, 6 1/4. Then you're going to rotate it, and you're going to score at 3 3/4. So now that you have these score lines and this score line, you're going to take your scissors or an X-Acto knife, and you're going to cut up to the score line. And then I just mitered these two corners. These will get folded in, this gets folded on top, and now you have a simple pocket. And that is the pocket that we're going to make for each one of the folders that will be the insert for the pocket. Now you're going to need a total of 12 of these. So let me find, here's my pick tool. Okay, so again, 6 3/4 by 7 1/2, score 1/2 inch, 6 1/4, rotate 90 degrees, score at 3 3/4, and that is the base for your pocket. And then of course you have to trim up to the score line. And then you're going to fold this over, and this becomes your pocket. Okay, so you're going to make 12 of those. So that's pretty simple. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to pull in my die cutting machine, and I'm going to show you how to die cut the folders that are going to go inside the pockets. Okay, I've got my die cutting machine here, and I went ahead and ran it through because it kind of shakes my desk and it makes a ton of noise. So I went ahead and did it offline, but I want to show you the result. So basically I started with a piece of black cardstock that's 6 inches by 8 1/2, and that's just a rough estimate to make sure that the die would fit on it. Ran it through my die machine, and now I have this folder. Becomes the base for the project, and it's going to go into the pocket. And here's the pocket that I showed you. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut designer paper that is going to fit here and here. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to cover this side or not, but I'm definitely going to cover the inside, because when it is pulled out and you're looking at it, you'll be looking at the inside here and here. And so I definitely want these two pieces to be covered with designer cardstock. And I may come back and cover the front and back. I certainly have enough. I can either do 2 projects or I can cover all sides, and I haven't decided. So you're going to die cut 12 of these, okay? And I started with 6.5, or I'm sorry, 6 by 8.5, and just ran it through the die cut machine. If you're not going to use a die and you just want to make a folder insert yourself, the measurements are going to be, let's see, 7 5/8 by 5.5. 7 5/8 by 5.5. And then of course part of that is this. So the 7.5 would include any tab that you add to the top, or it just makes it that much taller than the pocket. Okay, so now that we've got this, the next thing we want to do is we want to cut the designer paper that's going to go on top. And now here I've reversed the colors. The yellow is the base, and this is what the mats are going to look like on top. And I'm going to show you how I did this. This is different than how I would instruct you to do die cut for a border, because you're trying to deal with 3 sides and not just one edge. So basically you're going to take your designer paper and you're going to run it through your die cut machine. So it's going to be essentially exactly the same size as the black one. And if you layer them on top, they're exactly the same. So now what you need to do is you need to come back and you need to trim the edges off both sides. So depending on how you want your mat to work out, you're going to trim those edges. Now I want an overall 16th inch border. That means in total I want to take an 1/8 inch off. So I'm going to take a 16th off here and a 16th off here. And then I'm going to wind up with a nice black border all the way around it. And the way I'm taking that 16th off is I'm going to fold this in half, I'm going to lay it in my trimmer, and I'm going to take a 16th inch off both sides. Let's see if that's enough. Then I'm going to lay it back on my black cardstock and see how I like it, and that looks pretty good to me. So the next thing I need to do is I need to shorten this, because I don't want it to actually go into the fold, because I want to use this as kind of part of the feature that helps it stand up on its own. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to take from this score line, this perforated score line, I am going to come in 1/8 of an inch right here and trim it off. And then on the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so now I've split it in half, and now I'm ready to go ahead and adhere it to the folder on top and the folder on the bottom. Okay, so that's basically how we're going to construct all 12 of these. So I've gone ahead and cut and trimmed out all my pieces, both the top and bottom for each one. And I'm going to sit down and we're going to construct one together. So again, you're going to need 12 of the folders, and repeat that process. Trim the sides down. You can trim them down 1/8 on each side, then you wind up, you know, with a little bit broader border around it. So it's really a personal preference. But either way will work. But whatever you trim off one side, you have to do off the other. That way this stays centered. Of course, if you're not using the die and if you're just doing a rectangular, it doesn't really matter. You can take it off of one side. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. So I'm going to move my die machine, and we're going to pull out our first one, and we're going to construct it together. So here's my folder, and it's just die cut through the machine, not trimmed at all. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this in my ScorBoard. And I'm going to turn it this way, and the reason I'm doing that is because there's more flat surface on this side. And then I'm going to score at 5 1/4, 5 1/4. So now you can see I've got a score here. So now I'm going to adhere my designer paper that I've already trimmed out right here, and I am going to glue it up to that new score line. Let me get this out of the way. We'll complete one of these, and then you'll see this goes really quickly once you have your first, get your first one built. You just repeat that process over and over. And I went ahead and pre-trimmed everything, and I don't think I have to duplicate any patterns, but I'm not sure. I cut the pieces so long ago I can't really remember. We'll see as we're starting to construct it. Sorry, I haven't crafted in so long. My glue tip is dry, shut. Okay, hopefully that does it. So don't put glue on the designer paper, put it on the black side, because you know you want to stop at this score line. And if you put it on the designer side, you might glue beyond that. Well, good night. It's just not, here it goes. I was gonna say it's just not coming out for me. I hope everybody's doing well. I feel like I've been away for a very long time. We had started some home refresh projects pre-COVID. Everything got put on hold, and they've been back for, I guess, what feels like a month now, and we're coming toward the end. So I'm hoping to get my schedule back to some kind of normal. Okay, so again, you're gonna stop your glue line at the score line, and then you're just gonna center this so that you've got a nice even border, both sides, across the top. And this is so easy to work with because everything's gonna be flat in this project. It's gonna be so simple. Okay, so there you go. So there is the first part. Now we're gonna put a piece, and here's my stack that I've pre-cut for the tops. And here's the ones that I pre-cut for the bottom. And it takes a little effort, but it's not hard. It can be a little tedious. So I'm gonna pick something that I think goes nicely here. Yeah, I kind of like that. Let's see. This one, it looks like I might even need to trim a little more off the bottom. I have to reorganize to get some things out of my way. Let's see. What's on the flip side? Oh, some of the flip sides you can't reuse. I think I actually like this better. But I do need to trim a little off the bottom. When I say off the bottom, I mean away from the fold line, because it's pretty tight. So I'm just going to take a sliver off. And then that should do it. And get some ink on the edges, and we'll glue that down. This is so pretty. Pretty, pretty. Okay, now this one is going to get glued completely down. So you're going to cover the whole back of this. There we go. So that's what it's going to look like finished. And again, I may come back and cover both sides, but for now I just want to demonstrate what that looks like. And then when it's standing up, you're going to open it and it will stand like so. So I just want to show you the side. That is what it's going to look like. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Your instructions could be here. You could have a photo of the finished recipe, or you can just use this as an interesting photo album. It's just not traditional. It's not in a book form. So that is like that. Then the next thing is it's going to slip inside its pocket. And by the way, I made the pocket wide enough that you can cover both front and back and still have room for a photo, and it'll still slip in. So that is going to be repeated 12 times. So I'm going to set this aside for now that we've done that. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do to attach these 12 together. So when we're finished, so you should have 12 of these. And I'm going to go ahead and take the inserts out, and then we're going to attach all these pockets together and make what is kind of like an accordion. And then we can come back and cover the rest of these. Now I've seen other projects very similar to this. I don't think I've seen one using the graphic 45 die, but I've seen lots of similar projects. Well, that didn't want to let go. Just not using dies, using tabs. What is it stuck on? I don't know what that's stuck on, but I don't want to tear it to get it out. And the reason I'm taking all this out is we're going to attach each one of these pockets, and I just want to make sure that the openings are all level. Yeah. Okay. And this project could easily be expanded to as many folders as you want. And then I would tell you when I put the little box piece together what you would need to modify to make that happen. Okay, this is the last one. That's so strange. It's got plenty of room. I don't know what it was sticking on. Okay, let's make sure we've got 12. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and number 12. Well, we're going to use this one because it doesn't have anything written on it. Okay, so these are all going to get attached to each other so that it behaves kind of like an accordion. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to attach the front to the back, to the front, to the back, to the front, to the back, and we're going to move through the whole stack until we're done. So what I would like to do, and the first one we're going to leave blank. It's actually going to have some chipboard attached to it. So we're going to apply glue to the back. Now I'm going to use my grid to help me out. I don't need to glue the whole back, and I want it to be able to spring open like an accordion. So I'm actually going to apply glue to, let's see, where's a pencil? So that's my center line roughly right there. So I'm going to apply glue. I think I'm going to come in about 1 inch on both sides. And then just apply some glue here and leaving the edges open. And you can also do this with tape if you want. I'm trying to decide if 1 inch is enough. Let's go in a little bit further. Let's go ahead and draw a glue line right here. From here to here, and that's my center line, and it's 1 inch on either side, so it's got a 2 inch. Now I don't want to glue all the way to the bottom. I want to give it some flex room. It's okay if you glue all the way to the top. Now that's the back of one. This is the front of the one, and we're going to repeat that process until we get all 12 of these attached. I'm going to glue it, and I'm going to pick it up and stack it and burnish it each time. Now I'm going to do the same thing, and if you want to make it go a little bit quicker, you could just draw your cheat lines ahead of time for each one, and then you'll know where to glue. I'm just going to do it off my grid here, although every time I pick it up I have to start over, so you may want to consider. Actually, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go ahead and mark them all, and then I'll glue them in a minute. Okay, I went ahead and marked them all, and I want to show you a quick technique. So once I have the tick marks on one, I stack my whole pile up, and then I'm just going to spread them out just slightly. line up the top and bottom, lay them down, and just drag a pencil. And then I'm going to do the reverse on this side, and then you'll just have a quick marking. It does not have to be precise in this application. That's not going to work for everything, but it works for this, so we're just going to go ahead with that. Okay, so I only need to put glue on one side, so I'm going to put it on this side, and then I'm going to flip it over and lay it on the one that's already started. And again, I'm leaving a little bit of clearance on the bottom. Of course, I need to get some glue in the middle too. And the reason I'm doing leaving some clearance on the bottom is just to allow it to expand. Okay. Okay. Be careful, my glue went over the edge. You want to be careful not to glue your pockets closed. Again, that's the base of the pocket, that's the opening. So make sure you don't overflow your glue and then glue your pocket shut. So I'd like to hear some feedback from you guys on this project. It's very different. It's not my traditional albums. I'd like to hear if you guys are interested in these kinds of projects, or if you'd just like me to stick to albums. It's just that this particular paper really lent itself to, in my opinion, to like a recipe keepsake type of project. So, okay, I overflowed with my glue again, so I'm trying to be careful. Okay, we're getting to the end. I did it again. I gotta stop being so generous at the top of the pocket. In addition to it just sort of lending itself to this sort of recipe idea, I've really been itching to use these dies for something. Okay. By the way, everything I just did, if you would prefer, can be done with tape. I just thought it doesn't really have to have tape. So it's not that anything will get stuck to it other than the other pocket, but so you have an option. Okay, so now these are all done, and as you can see, they will open up, and these become the pockets. So I think it's pretty cool. The more you want it to open away from the center, then the tighter you want your glue line in the middle. So I did 2 inches in the middle. If you want it to spread further, then you just need to make that glue line smaller and smaller. I didn't think I would put much more in the pocket than the folder, so I kept mine tight. So again, instead of covering 2 inches, cover 1 inch or something less, and then you would be able to accordion it out more, okay? So it's meant to look kind of like a I can't remember what the name of these are, but it's kind of like a file system that comes, you know, attached like that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to need to do, and I'm going to go ahead and put the one folder that I've completed would go into one of these pockets like so. And that's pretty much what you're going to see on the outside of the box. So the next